Okay, Rod, are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Call the Topsham Planning Board to order. Please take the roll.
Don Span,
Present.
Carrie Bickford,
Present.
present by Zoom. Ronald Bisson,
Here.
Larry Brand,
Present.
Dan Flagg,
Present.
and Scott Libby and Joshua Swiller have been excused.
All right, thank you. So I guess do this anyway. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank Rod on behalf of myself and the planning board. He really put a lot of effort into it and done a great job. So we really do thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to say anything?
I will miss it here. It taught me everything I know.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So approval of the minutes, April 14th. Do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of April 14 as submitted.
All right, you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, Carrie, you with us?
I wasn't here that night.
Right here.
Thank you. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is Cloutier Properties LLC has submitted proposed site plan and conditional use permits for a 7,500 square foot office building, 6,000 square foot salt shed, paving and gravel, area maintenance and landscaping at 601 Lewiston Road, tax map R02, lot 048. And I guess who's going to be presenting that?
I am Melissa Archbell of Sightlines.
Okay. Did you catch her name?
I didn't, I heard you listen.
Sorry, Melissa Archbell.
Thank you.
Do I need to move? Can everybody see through me or over me or whatever? Okay. All right, Melissa, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Melissa Archbell. I'm the Sightlines PA. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Cloutier Properties LLC, for the final site plan and conditional use approvals for the facility at 601 Lewiston Road. Nick Cloutier is behind Cloutier Properties LLC. He is also the owner of Willie C. & Sons Landscaping of Topsham. They're a well-known firm with a tremendous landscaping footprint in the town and the region. And working with Nick on this project is Priority Real Estate Group, also of Topsham, a tremendous developer with whom I'm sure the board is familiar. And the architecture is being done by Alpha Architects of Portland. And I'm working with my colleague, Joe Martin at Sightlines on this design and this incredible team. The project is located in the RCU zoning district, the rural commercial use. They're on Route 196, Lewiston Road. It's previously developed. It's been used as staging and gravel parking lot for various uses over the years. We are proposing a landscaping office and retail. There's a 7,500 square foot single story office maintenance building, a 6,000 square foot salt shed, and a 12 by 12 retail shed. It is conditional use because of the retail and service business uses in this district. The site is over 24 acres and most of it is wooded. The current disturbed area is about 2.5 acres, most of which we will be disturbing with this proposal. The existing impervious is almost 2.3 acres or so, and this proposal will reduce the existing impervious on site by a couple thousand square feet. That's my next slide here is the site plan, which you guys should have in your packet. So up front, there are bins for landscaping materials. The building is 7,500 square feet with office and maintenance space. There's parking up front for the retail and service aspect of it. And And in the rear is the proposed salt shed. There is a new septic system proposed, and the existing well on site will be utilized for water. There is existing electrical, which will be extended to the new facility. We are proposing a bike rack up front, which I realized was left off in the last version, but it's on the record. And a sign, which we will pursue through the town at the time. So our next slide here with grading, we're formalizing the existing impervious areas, which have mostly been gravel over the years. We will have pavement. We're doing a little bit of grading in the rear to allow for drainage, but leaving much of that untouched. We are, as far as stormwater runoff goes, we're reducing the areas that drain towards neighbors, or this very small portion that drains out towards 196, and instead reducing the impervious and increasing the drainage areas towards the existing low-lying areas and woods. So our next slide here is a zoom in of the landscaping plan. You have the whole plan in your packet, but we've worked with Peter Beagle, a registered landscape architect in the state of Maine, with the very specific ordinance requirements for this zone. We have designed it to be in accordance and low maintenance and appropriate for the use. One of the things that our applicant very much wanted was room for landscaping materials for the retail aspect to showcase the retail plantings. So allowing room up front near that driveway for that sort of material. And I've included the footprint of the building to show you the front is an office space, and the rear will allow for maintenance of the existing landscaping business trucks. The next one you can see in the front view, the drive-through aspect of the building. And then my last slide here included existing Google Earth photos of the site, just to give you a sense of Route 196 in that vicinity. As you can see, the existing site is trafficked. It's mostly gravel and or dirt. We are pursuing an entrance permit with Maine DOT because of the change in use. So that will obviously, the town permit will obviously be contingent on obtaining DOT approval for this project. There is a lot of site distance in that area. I did a shot down 196 in both directions. It is a 50-mile-an-hour zone in that vicinity, and that site already sees a lot of truck traffic. We're hoping to formalize the site and make it safer for everyone. So that is our proposal, and I would love to take questions.
I just had a couple. One is going through the case memo. There was a number of staff review comments, and it looks like for the most part, they have been answered in the findings of fact for the conditional use. Is that correct?
There, she prepared a response letter, that's also on the website, where she addressed all the staff comments. The technical review, Tom Saucier, is ongoing, but that's in motion.
Okay, and then the note here about technical review on stormwater and so forth, that's what you're referring to?
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
Types of retail, is it just plants and stockpiles and materials, garden mulch?
That's as I understand it.
Yes. Yeah, it's not a greenhouse. So they're not, it's not like they're opening up skillets. They're gonna have bark mulch and stone and rock and so forth that they'll sell to customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, for the record, you should say Jim Howard answered that question.
Hi, Jim. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right.
Question about the salt shed. Is that just for the Cloutier purposes? or will we see purposes? Or is that going to be actually like selling salt, sand salt to anybody who has a salt spreader in the winter?
From,
I'll answer that, Melissa.
that would be great, Jim, because I'm not sure of that one.
Just wait for you to answer
And then
before I
Go
interrupt.
ahead.
Yes, they will be using it for their own use and they will sell salt to other local folks who sand driveways and salt driveways. Yes.
Okay. And I kind of missed where I had it on my thing here, but about how far back is that salt shed from Route 196? And the only reason that I'm asking is my office is near G&G Landscaping over in Lewiston, and they do the same thing with a salt shed. And they had a very, very long line during one of the storms that we had. People all lined up, and it did block traffic quite considerably.
It's to the back of the property. I don't think we could line up enough trucks to get up to the road. It's one of the reasons why we put it in the back of the property.
Yeah.
One is so that we can drive trucks in. They don't have to back up, so there's not gonna be any horns going off as they back up.
That was my next question.
They're gonna come into the back side of it, go into the building, load up and go out forward. So there'll be no backup horns going off.
Yeah.
We put it to the back of the property because it's really only used 4 months of the year. Really, it's probably the least used building that we're gonna have on the property. So we put it off to the back of it so there'd be less disruption to any neighbors or anybody.
And is there sufficient room? Because I know that, like usually the sand salt comes in tractor trailer to dump into the salt shed.
Correct, there is, yes.
Room enough for the
Melissa?
traffic on that part of it?
Yeah, we should show that, I would assume.
Melissa, can you go back to one of the previous slides that shows the site
Right.
plan?
I do have, provided with the comment response was, it was requested that we showed the turning radius for, Tom Saucier requested we show the turning lines of a truck coming in and out of the property. And obviously I'll go back to the site plan. With the gravel in the rear, there's sufficient room for maneuvering in the rear. And I took a quick measurement. It's over 575 feet from the edge of the pavement to the front of the salt shed building.
And room enough for the tractor trailer to be able to turn around and dump?
Yes.
Shed?
Good. Ron, anything? No. All right. So, Carrie, any questions?
Not at all. Looks like a great project.
All right, well, since this is additional use here and we need to open up to the public, so any questions before we open it up? Do we have anybody in the waiting room or whatever? No. Open up for public hearing. Are there any questions, comments, anything from anyone here, or I guess?
I have a few questions.
All right, we don't have a, I guess, talk into the app.
Yeah, the owl is a microphone, so go ahead, you can say your name.
Dana Houston, 600 Lewiston Road. I live right across the street. The first question is, I don't know if any of you can answer it. What is the difference between a rural commercial zone and a commercial zone? I come down and asked that question before a couple months ago and I didn't get an answer.
Well, I chatted with you, I think, right?
Yeah.
Not much of a difference other than the uses that are allowed, the dimensional requirements that are in that zone versus other commercial zones, meaning setbacks, building heights, building sizes. Rural commercial, kind of the interpretation of that is really that rural uses are accommodated.
So are you saying that it's a rural commercial zone, it will be low impact to the neighborhood? I mean, why have a rural commercial zone if you're just gonna allow commercial businesses in it?
Well,
I mean, I'm not against the project itself, certain aspects of it. I mean, that's what I don't understand. If it's a rural commercial zone, it shouldn't impact the neighborhood.
Want me to address it, or-
Yeah, let's let him respond to that.
I can try to answer. I don't know if I'll be able to accommodate your answer, but I mean, the uses that we identified quite some time ago, before my time at Thompson, the zones existed, came in the late nineties, I believe. It was intended to have big setbacks on buildings and not be close to the street. This is a 50-mile-an-hour zone. It was also intended to have some rural commercial uses such as landscaping companies, carpenters, and those service businesses that this is what this proposal is.
Yeah, another question, sir.
Yeah, well, I got about 5, 6, so.
All right.
Um,
Do you want to give us all 5 or 6, and then we can answer them, or?
Well, I just soon go right down the whole list. Is this a different plan than was online a couple months ago? Because I thought the building was in a different spot.
It is, the building was closer to the road.
And didn't it go across more instead of being off to the side?
No, it was to the other side of the property
Yes.
from where it is.
Yeah.
Same shape and closer to the road. So we moved it a little back away from the road.
Well, I'll go to the salt shed. You answered the question that anybody could come in anytime and get salt, right?
Well, not exactly, not anybody. Willie and Sons will have commercial accounts with specific people that come in to get.
If somebody wants some at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're gonna be allowed to come in and get it.
That's correct.
See, I mean, there's one house off, it would be to the east. I'm across the street, there's a house on the other side. I mean, there's like 5 houses just in that area. Now we're gonna start talking truck traffic coming in at all hours of the night, leaving all hours. Plus, most of them are gonna head back towards Topsham. It's an uphill grade where those trucks are gonna be gassing it to get going. So that's another one of my concerns. I don't have a problem with the landscaping business. I just have a problem with the salt shed. And as far as I can see like that, you said trucks are gonna drive in one side and out the other side. Well, something's gonna be loading them. There's gonna be a beeper going off in that building and it's gonna echo. I've been around trucks and tractors all my life, so I know that's what's gonna happen. If they wanna load a truck, then open a door and let them go, fine, but it shouldn't be open all the time as far as I'm concerned. And that's just, I mean, who's gonna wanna listen to that 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning? She said it was 500 to 600 feet away. I can hear them out there right now where they're working. And that's about where their stockpile is right now.
Well, before we go there, maybe this is a distinction, but in the notes, we've asked about the discussion about hours of operation. Applicant should provide information about hours of operation, expected noise levels, and so forth. And then in the conditional use, it talks about this may be the distinction, which the proposed retail use will not produce significant noise, dust, odor, vibration. Business hours will be from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Now, is that applying to this? Because if it's 3 a.m., that's not 7 a.m., right? So I guess.
I think there's two different ways to look at that, and I would need to clarify it actually with Nick Cludier at Willie and Sons. So is it the operation of the landscape business itself? And then, of course, we don't know when it's going to snow. We normally predict there are about 19 snow events a year. So it'll be 19 times a year where it's possible that people go to the salt shed to get salt out. So, and whether that's in the evening or not all 19 will be at night. So it's a limited amount, but there will be some traffic. The salt shed is set up as a big bin that gets full of salt and the trucks drive under it and it fills the trucks up to keep the noise down. So we don't expect that there's going to be front end loaders beeping to fill the trucks up. So we did what we could to try to limit that.
Another one, yeah, well, you already said the hours of operation, 7-4. Since this changed a little bit, I don't know what the lighting is for the project.
Melissa?
Did you hear the question?
And just what is the lighting? Is that,
Yes.
This, where, essentially, what is the lighting plan for the project?
it is, let me grab it here.
I mean, it's the lighting that meets your standards, so it's the lighting you
I
said that
understand.
we had to put in, so it meets
Yeah.
the standard.
So I hope I'm not gonna make anyone dizzy zooming in and whatnot. So we have full cutoff lighting. These little numbers are provided in the plan set I hope you received. Provide foot candles, and they do not extend into the road like path. They do not extend to the roadway. And it's in accordance with the Topsham standards for lighting. There's a little bit more information about the type of lighting provided. And I don't know. There is pole lighting and building mounted lighting.
About how many lights?
Ooh.
Is it gonna light up the whole area at night or just a little bit out front or?
So there is a total of 10 poles on the whole site, which is also in the rear, all the way around past the salt shed. And then there are 4 building mounted lights at this time. I think one of those is on, there's 2 facing forward. There's 1 facing rear and then 1 on the salt shed.
As far as the material out front, how much material are you talking so people can see what it is? Is that where they're gonna come in to pick it up? I mean, are they gonna have to go out, they dumping 10 yards of bark mulch and 10 yards of fresh stone out front, so every time somebody wants them in a little trailer, they come out and pick it up, or is that just for show that's just gonna stay there so you can show the people what it is?
Yeah, I would need Nick to answer that in more detail, but the way that the bins are set up to store the material, they would pull up to the bin toward the front, put anything in the trailer they wanted and leave. They wouldn't go through the back part of the property.
And that's right out front?
Correct.
That's the bends.
Yeah. Could you point that out?
Yeah, slide it over with if you can.
I'll go back to the,
There.
Okay. Yes, there's landscaping.
Where are the bins?
They look like parking spaces, but they're
Oh, okay,
actually.
is that-
Yeah,
okay,
those are-
that's-
yeah, I was gonna-
Okay, I thought those were park spaces though. I was going up.
No, those are bins.
So, yeah,
On both
both on
sides?
either side there, and then parking is over closer to the building. You follow that?
Yep, no, I see what it was. I thought it was all parking, so.
Okay.
I guess that's my concerns is pretty much what in and out at nighttime of the sand trucks or salt trucks or whatever, because some years, he said an average of 19, some years it might be 10, but some years it might be 25, because where he's doing commercial work now, you get just a little bit of ice on the parking lot, you have to go out and salt it. And those are all gonna be done early in the morning. They're not gonna wait till 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, like the hours on here, so they're all gonna be done early in the morning. I guess that's my real biggest concern about this whole project.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Has anybody signed on? All right, other questions, concerns, comments? All right, hearing none. Hearing. I'll come back to the board. Do you have some questions? Do you want to have discussion? Do we need to talk to Melissa about it?
Yeah, I have a few minor comments. As far as the salt dispensing into the trucks, I think, Jim, you had mentioned there's a conveyance system or something. So can you describe that a little bit more for me so I can understand, and maybe on the site plan show the circulation of trucks coming in and out?
Yeah, I can't explain it to you.
Because do they drive under it, like at a, and then it drops in the,
That's my understanding. I would need to get that detail for you.
okay.
Yes.
I was just trying to understand the mechanics, because I think that is a better way to do it versus having loaders
Correct.
and having an operator that has to load trucks and that sort of thing. So that seems like it's a more efficient, less impactful way to do it.
The drivers, like if you have a contract, there's a gate that blocks off anybody from getting to the back. So during a snow event, they would actually have a key fob that would open that gate up, allow them into the back, where it is automatic that fills the truck, and then they would leave. So for the least amount of disturbance to any of the neighbors.
Okay,
So the intent would be to flow through without having to back up
Correct.
and take the load, right, through however, I picture a silo, and I say that that's what it is.
But he made a good comment that maybe, I'm gonna go back and ask if we can keep the doors shut while that's happening, so that it creates even less noise. So I'm gonna check on that.
Can I say something? I know you've closed it, but, well.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I won't open the hearing, but go ahead.
My concern is if it gets any bigger and people start buying all the time from that salt shed, it ain't gonna be just his trucks or a couple other trucks coming in. It's gonna be a line of trucks coming in. Then once again, you're talking, that could be all night long. Trucks coming in and out. Could be small dump trucks, 3 yard, 5 yard, 6 yard, could be wheelers. They need the salt, they're gonna get it somewhere. And if they're open at night, they're gonna get it.
And to a point, that's correct, but we're limited with the amount of salt the shed could hold. It's not that big of a shed, so there would be a point at time that we would have no salt left if it was that busy.
Yeah, that's why it's diluted with tractor trailer trucks.
so getting back to the delivery of the tractor trailer trucks, I'm assuming that's like a full length, like a 50-foot dump body on a tractor trailer. They drive in, they kind of back in up to it and just have a lift pump or something that dumps the salt.
It could be as big as a full-size tractor trailer.
Okay.
It not always is.
Okay, all right. But those deliveries would be normal business hours.
Correct. Oh, yes, you're not at night.
Okay, someone,
Melissa, I think was.
Melissa?
I was just saying that it wasn't, that I was just going to volunteer that it was going to be during normal business hours, that you would anticipate those deliveries. But as Nick told me, they would typically be from a full-size tractor trailer sized truck.
Okay, so given the site plan, the truck would drive in forward and then in that hammerhead area, try to turn that thing around and back up to the shed. Is that how that would work?
Yes, there is more than enough room for maneuvering between the building and the salt shed.
And did I hear you correct? The deliveries would be during the normal working hours?
Yes. Yes, that's what Nick had told me.
And then with the bins out front, so those are going to have individual stockpiles of material like fresh stone, bark mulch, and so forth. So I'm assuming there'll be like bobcat loaders or something on site that including your staff would use to load pickup trucks and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, and that would be during normal business hours.
Business hours, correct.
Okay.
Their hours of operation, as Don said, were, I believe, 7 or 8 to 4.
It said 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And is there a salt storage facility like this in the area for this type of activity, landscaping services, or is this a newer opportunity, I guess?
Well, most greenhouses have bins. I mean, you
Yeah.
can pull up the skillings or anything,
Yeah.
you're pulling right up and loading up in bins. I'm not sure who else has a salt shed. I'm not sure where we're getting all of our salt now for all our properties, so.
Yeah, because that'd be a question, because Mr. Houston mentioned that different customers would be using it. I was just curious. I never thought about where the existing contractors are getting their salt from, and whether or not this would be another supply source that would, reduce the load over the general area, or if it would concentrate the supply in this area.
I would assume we're getting a lot of it. Ronnie, we're getting a lot of it from Crooker? Yeah, okay. So we're getting a lot of it from Crooker, I would assume. Is what we get.
The thing about it is, gypsies don't really come in. They won't load trucks till the scales are open. And those 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. That's because they have to weigh the salt out, and that's the only way the gypsies come in and do that. We use our own.
Yeah.
And stuff, but another thing too, how big is that? What kind of shed is it? That salt shed is gonna be, what is it, metal, wood, or?
Yeah, it's a metal structure that you purchase, we're purchasing it from Canada.
Yeah.
And it comes in and they install it and put it together. It's made specifically for that.
Okay. And another thing too, if they do end up using like a loader in there to, fill trucks if they have to, whatever. At our plant, anything after a certain time at night till 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's been OSHA approved too, that instead of the backup alarm, they have a strobe light on the back of the machine so that people know that it's backing up. That's
Good to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's interesting.
Following up on Ron's question, just Melissa, if you have the architecturals on that salt shed, just curious about building height on the salt shed, given the whole dumping apparatus or whatever. The owl copy. That's
I hope this is okay. This is, oh, that's just the roof for As I Know It. I don't, let's see, it's a metal. I don't have all the information on the salt shed at this moment. This is the, I hope this is the picture. How do I stop? Can you guys see that?
same one.
no. Oh, there we go.
That's the picture as I have been informed. So I have a,
We know
I'm gonna
what
drag
that.
it. So I have a 25, I have drawings here for it appears to be 25 feet tall on the dome portion. And then there is some sort of knee wall, a concrete wall it sits on top of. I don't have that exact dimension.
Doesn't look to be significant, though.
What's that, Rod?
I said that knee wall doesn't look to be significant, but we should note that in our findings or conditions or whatever.
I'll bring this back over.
What's the specific note?
We should understand what the height of the building is to make sure it meets code. That's all right. Then Tom can issue a permit.
Okay,
I have another question.
yeah, I have a couple too, go ahead.
Okay.
And we haven't let Larry speak yet.
Okay. Well, I don't want to monopolize all the time. On the salt shed, is there any, I've never actually seen how one of these go together, but what about containment? Obviously, we don't want salt getting into the groundwater in the area. So is there like on the inside, is there concrete, probably not concrete, but a paved surface or something? That the
It's
salt-
concrete.
Is it
It's concrete. Correct the form, which is why we have a knee wall around it to contain all the salt and everything inside.
Okay, and salt doesn't heat the concrete up, corrode it? break it
Well,
up?
it may over time and we have to maintain that and take care of that. So, yep.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that was all contained.
Very good.
I didn't know if you were ready, Don, or not.
Well,
I'm good.
no, go ahead.
Okay. So is the area around the salt shed going to be paved, or is that gravel?
Actually, we have that labeled as gravel. I think there was a talk of it making it a reclaim material.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know what reclaim is.
So you think that's reclaim around there?
As, the plan as I know it is to just refresh the gravel in that vicinity.
For the tech comments that Tom Saucier provided us, I mean, that was assumed gravel or reclaim.
Oh,
yeah.
And just following up on Dan's question about the salt into groundwater, et cetera, so. Right. I think that's the only question I have. I mean, I did have an answer to one of Dan's questions. In Lewiston, there's G&G Landscaping, which has a salt shed. Okay. It's a similar idea where the tractor trailers will back up to the salt shed, and it's not, they don't tip, they just have something to put it all out into the
Flow boys. Flow boys.
flow boys. Okay.
We have our resident expert.
I know, I was gonna say, yeah, Ron knows what they are. And it goes into the salt shed that way. I'm set for the moment.
So I don't know if there's a question in this, and I'm not sure I quite have it in my mind correct either, but, all right. To the extent, and you call them gypsies, I guess that's whoever else is going to use it.
Yeah, that's what we call little guys.
To the extent that there are going to be other people, not just the owner utilizing the salt shed, do we need some type of signage plan directing people through the site so that they don't get into having a backup every time you turn around because they're not familiar with it? And how do we deal with the strobe light discussion versus having the backup bells, right? And I guess the other question is, how does that all interplay with your other comment that the gypsies typically aren't in the middle of the night, right? Which
You know, I don't know how Willie does, but as far as his business would be to use his salt shed just for his own stuff till, you know, put up a sign, no load till 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever, you know, just like we are.
And that's the way Crooker does it.
Yeah, nobody comes in till 7 o'clock in the morning, because we weigh everything out, so it's.
You just have the scales up.
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Other people may not need scales.
Right, I believe that it's, I gotta confirm it for you, Don, but I believe that it's measured by volume that comes out of the big bin where the salt is. It tells you how much came out and filled your truck. You track it.
So it's right there on the.
Correct. Where Ronnie, they gotta weigh it. They're filling a truck up and they're going to the scales. He doesn't deliver anything at 7 in the morning because there isn't anybody manning the scales.
Yeah. But we can put stipulation in there too, that no gypsies come in other than the stuff till 7 o'clock in the morning.
My only
Comment on traffic and safety through.
Well, it was more back to the backup gongs or whatever, right?
Yeah. Anybody who has a contract's gonna know, they're gonna get a code to be able to get in there. They're
Yeah.
gonna be able to go through the gate. So they're gonna probably have visited the site and know how to load their trucks and how the system works. So it's not someone's just gonna pull in off the road and get some salt. So somebody's gonna have a little bit of explanation and training on how to do that.
since we are subject to the town ordinances of hours, noise ordinance and the nuisance piece of it, I wouldn't want to restrict the building. I wouldn't want to restrict the business hours. I would hope we could avoid restricting the business hours at this point, knowing that the applicant is pursuing absolute, they're pursuing ways to make this as unintrusive to the neighbors as possible, and to keep it quiet, that they are trying to make sure that this isn't a nuisance or a noise issue in the middle of the night. But I'd hate to restrict the business hours in the planning board approval, just because it would be hard to change that if it turned out to not be a nuisance.
What happens if it is a nuisance and you don't have anything on it?
Well, we're subject to the ordinance.
Yeah, okay. So what do you guys think?
I don't have a trouble with the application until we get to the salt shed. And I would like to see more details regarding the salt shed, how that's set up, as well as what is expected with regard to both material in and material out.
Yeah, this seems reasonable to me. You know, there's a bit of an unknown there. I think I want to have a little bit more information from the applicant regarding you know, first, the anticipated traffic outside of the applicant's vehicles that are using the salt shed. And I know they had mentioned, you know, an average winter is 19 storms, but I do take note of the gentleman's comments there that, you know, that is an average. It could become more of a nuisance than is currently anticipated right now. So I think having some more information about that, where there isn't a comparable setup in town that we're aware of outside of privilege, beneficial for us.
Gary, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm completely on board with this. I just, I had a thought, nowadays we have so much going on 24/7 with news, and the weather is one of them. And I don't think that the scenario would be that all the trucks are going to go at 3 a.m. and there's going to be a line out there for salt. I think, would it be fair to say that most of them are going to know what's coming and prepare their vehicles and fill them ahead of time so that they're ready to go? I don't know. I mean, I'm not in this business, but I would think that, there's probably going to be a random truck or two every now and then that either runs out and then has to go there at a time that's not as convenient as the other times. But I'm not worried about it. I'm very familiar with this company, and they've been in town for a long time. They have a good reputation. I think they'll work with us if there are issues down the road. So I'm excited about it. I can't wait to see it.
I guess I've never seen one of these things that they have to load the sanders. I've always used loaders, but I still think the idea of, in case you gotta use a loader, all it is, it's basically put a switch in, and you can switch it from the backup alarm to the strobe light. It's
And is that something they have, Brokers has written authorization from OSHA or whatever? So it's a common practice, which,
and sometimes they use it. Right, well, we used to use it when we did the mall and stuff, at night and stuff. But you figure, you got like Town of Topsham, they get a big salt shed. And theirs was kind of out of the way, but Town of Brunswick, salt shed is right there by Water Street, and I know because I load my salt truck right there and stuff.
so I guess I don't think necessarily the hours are trying to get restricted. I guess the real question is, yes, if people are planning ahead, they have the salt.
Yeah.
But for the gypsy type, is there some reason why the hours for that couldn't be 7 a.m.? And it's not the whole operation, it's just for the people that aren't the normal contractors with that facility.
Yeah.
That's why you call them gypsies, right?
Yeah, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the gypsies, as well as, other contractors, are using, like your, 1-ton pickup trucks with the salt spreader in the back of the pickup truck. And that holds just a limited amount.
Yeah.
And you can chew through that pretty quickly if you've got an ice storm going on, or, the right type of conditions trying to hit driveways, parking lots, et cetera. So, said, I very clearly saw, like I said, a big line of the gypsies trying to get salt and sand earlier this year. And as well as the tractor trailers coming in, almost one right after another, replenishing that salt shed. Because they're going through it that fast. Now, that's Lewiston, but
And about how far off the road is that salt shed?
Well, I would say it's probably maybe 100 yards, maybe at the most.
So probably a little closer.
It's closer than that one. Yeah. But it is off 100 yards off a side road, not a main,
Not 196.
not 196.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to caution us a little bit when we talk about limiting when we can use the salt shed. Because if you're going to limit when we can use the salt shed, when we actually need the salt shed, which is during storms, an average of 19 times a year, one of the reasons we're putting in a salt shed here, and Nick is there's a big need, there's a huge need for this in this area, big need. And we need the salt when we need the salt, because every one of you are going to go into the business that you work at. You're not going to want to slip in the parking lot when you're headed inside. You're going to want to make sure it was taken care of. And we can't start doing that at 7 o'clock. Can't start loading trucks at 7 o'clock in the morning and expect to take care of all the commercial parking lots throughout Brunswick and Topsham that we need to by the time people show up to work. So we need to be sensitive to Mr. Houston's comments and not disrupt him in his home to the extent that we can. I imagine we'll monitor that with him as we go forward. But we need to use the salt shed when we need to use the salt. Otherwise, there's no purpose in having it.
Well, I'm not saying that I'm against the salt shed part of it. I'm just saying, I was looking for more information regarding
And
how that's all
I wish I had
done.
more for you. I apologize. I wasn't as prepared as I should have been.
So do we know what more, I guess the question I then come to, are you looking to table this and have them come back with more information?
I'm looking to table this.
Take it, that's what you think we should.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
Be very specific if you're tabling, what information are you requesting?
No, I was gonna come to that, I just was trying to get a feel for, sound like Carrie, you were ready to move forward, but Ron?
I'm ready to move forward.
I'm ready to move forward, definitely.
All right.
I think any of the smaller issues or any of the issues can be worked out along the way. I don't want to stop the project or table it for just the time frame.
Sure.
Is this an issue that can be brought to staff's attention,
Well, that's what I was,
where we could get approval pending staff's review of the salt shed?
I'd be good with that.
is that something that can work or not?
Everybody's looking at me, so I was
All right.
I'm gonna focus that way.
Well, that, I have faith in our staff, I guess, is number one, right? But,
Yeah,
so,
I have faith in our staff too.
well, I think the issue is if the staff isn't satisfied, they bring it back to us anyway.
Tom Lister will also know more about the noise ordinance and things going along with that than I do. So that would be involved in staff review.
We may want to, if we go the staff route, we may want to preface specific things. We want to make sure the staff.
No, I think we still spell that out before we get into it, which is back to Rod's comment, right? Just one other question. I know we've looked at the landscaping plan. Is there additional landscaping that can be done to help as a buffer? Maybe I'm asking you that question, Melissa, I don't know.
I think that would sort of answer. I would ask Mr. Houston if there's something that we can do to block, because I haven't actually gone and looked at where his home sits in relation to our
Right across the
right
driveway.
right across the street.
Right across
So if
the
we're looking at doing any of that, it'd probably be specific to his home, and I'd probably want to have that conversation with him and say, what can we do to mitigate any of that for you?
Question for you, Don, from Mike.
Sure, identify to,
Rick Schultz, who's a member of the public, but listening in. Just a question on granting the conditional use. What does that do to the future of changing in ownership, or if the demand is that high about expansion of the operation of additional shed or expansion? That be covered under that be a whole separate.
you want to answer that, Rod?
So conditional uses run with the property, so if it gets sold. So when the board makes findings on the use, and they're spelled out in the staff memo, as well as the applicant's proposal of what exactly the use is. So for instance, square footage of the salt shed right now, that's what the board would grant a conditional use for. So if they double the size of the salt shed, they're not conforming to the conditional use permit.
They would have to come back to the board. But to your first part of your question is the conditional use, once approved, stays at for that use of the property. Right? If there's a change in use and or if there's say a significant change in the size of the structures and so forth, which goes beyond what's approved, then it's has to come back to the board. Did I say that right?
And then it's site plan as well. I mean,
Right.
even without a conditional use, but
We do have thresholds and that staff can, for I'll call it minimal change, staff review, and it doesn't have to come to this board.
fun fact, the thing with conditional uses, the board could make the applicant do anything they want. My last name, so.
Yeah, thank you.
You had to say that.
I like you up until this day.
All right, so, but I think you understood my question. I think you understood that. Would additional buffering, you think, help?
It's not so much buffering. I mean, you have to buffer on my side, so it wouldn't hear it. Not on their side.
And that's something-
I'm more worried about the truck traffic coming out, because he's got 10 trucks. Well, if them come in, storm is over by 1 o'clock at night, well, they're gonna be sanded for the next 3 or 4 hours. So those 10 trucks are gonna be sanded for I don't know how long. Coming back and getting a load, coming back and getting a load. Then if you allow one of these transients, that somebody has a sander that's commercial business, something that wants sold, as long as they have an agreement with them, they can go in and get it too. So how do you limit the number of transients that come in and get stuff? I mean, if they want to expand it, and you allow them to expand it 10 years down the road, or somebody does, that could be in and out, big trucks all night long, constant traffic, if it's that busy, especially where Crookers is closed at 7 o'clock till 7 o'clock in the morning. Oh, you got a big storm, you gotta get your salt somewhere. If they're not prepared or ran out of salt, because nobody has it, well, that's where they're gonna go. I'm more worried about the traffic coming in and out all night long. Like I said, I don't think buffering on their side is gonna do much. I mean, I'm gonna hear them coming out on the road. Like I said, it's a upgrade going towards Topsham. And everybody knows a loaded truck, guess what? It's gonna make some noise, take it on.
And again, he's correct that there will be trucks coming in and out, but this is a small salt shed. This is not something besides a Crooker's operation in any way. We're not gonna have that many trucks coming in and out, and it will be limited to whether it's 10 to 25 times a year that we have a snow event, and they're not all at night. So there is, it is limited.
All right, so back to you guys. If we were to bring it back or have a condition for staff, what specifically are you looking for staff to look at? And she mentioned noise, right?
Noise.
What else?
What were some of the things that you read?
One would be deliveries to the salt shed. Is that during business hours?
They
Or is
said
that-
that. Just so,
Can I
hang on one
say
second.
something? Okay.
Since she said deliveries were gonna be during normal working hours, I thought we should add that as a condition. And I had made a note about that. Right. I think, but go ahead.
You can only get salt at a certain time out of Florida. They don't work nights. They're there till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's it. I haul salt out of Florida before, so.
Chances of us getting a delivery at 3 o'clock in the morning is pretty slim. Of salt,
Pretty slim.
because they stop at 3 in the afternoon.
You have to call ahead anyways to get the salt.
Correct.
And they'll schedule a time to come in and you'll have to tell them that they can't be there before 7 o'clock.
Yep.
What else in your list?
Well, was the question about the number of non-Willie C trips as far as, you know, the extent of the usage.
Right, obviously, the salt shed's a certain size, so
Yeah.
they based it on a certain capacity. And they obviously took into account Willie C's needs as a primary, use, I'm assuming. And then they built in,
Oh, so it does have a size, right? And it's
Yeah,
gonna get
so-
used up, right?
yeah, so I think staff should be able to get information on, okay, well, what's based on the size salt shed.
Almost like a traffic count.
Yeah, I mean, they came up with some size based on certain assumptions. Whether it's the size of the delivery trucks is probably one factor, but there's also how many trucks they expect to sell salt to and average number of storms and all that sort of thing.
And it's an enclosed salt shed. But the picture did not show enclosed. I mean, that Melissa put up was,
I thought it had a dome. Is it a dome?
Well,
no,
it's the dome,
there's a dome, but it looked like an open end.
then you find out that they have like those plastic doors or whatever. I don't know, is that,
I have to check that, Ronnie.
Yeah.
I don't know for
Yeah.
sure. Usually we don't talk quite so much about the structure, it's more about the site plan, so I didn't have quite as much information on the salt shed.
Melissa, your number of trips in your submittal, that was based on the retail establishment and not the salt shed? That was a question.
Yeah, sorry. The number of trips is based, so we have to base our number of trips on the uses of the ITE manual, just the engineering practice we use for estimating trips. And so there are different uses that come along with the garden center type use that we estimated the trips on. So I will say that the salt shed numbers were not included in that, but traffic permitting is based on a peak rate. And as we've kind of talked about, the way that snowstorms work, we don't, I have heard, I guess, a little bit of conflicting information from that Crooker anecdote, but the way the snowstorms work, we don't anticipate every truck lining up at the same time. And those peak rates would be lower than what we would anticipate for the service business and Willie C's like current operations, just of employees coming and going. So, and since the peaks aren't at the same time, you would anticipate like, that's why, yeah, the salt shed doesn't necessarily get added to those traffic counts.
I guess I used the phrase traffic. I wasn't necessarily referring to traffic count as much as sort of analogous to a traffic count. But in this case, like Larry said, I think you are going to see, you know, if it's happening at a certain time, then that's when you're going to have all the trucks there, right? They're not going to be, so you actually do have your own peak for salt, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And I would think that DOT would be interested in understanding that too for their, right? Because they don't want.
I think I don't know. I think they're more interested in site distance, but I am not an expert on that, right?
Yeah.
So
So let's according to the Kate's memo, says the applicant is awaiting an MDOT driveway entrance permit. And I take that is still in the works.
We submitted a few weeks ago and we know it's in the works. We've gotten a few follow-up questions, just run-of-the-mill questions. We know they've seen it, but we have not received any comments or feedback yet.
Is there any reason, I mean, I assume we have another meeting in 2 weeks?
We actually don't have anything on the agenda for the 9th, so I was going to ask if you wanted to cancel it, but
Well, we can have a meeting in 2 weeks that we're scheduled.
yes.
I just want to make
You
sure before I.
basically pulled up your phone, Don.
No, I want to look at my schedule just
Yeah,
to make
the
sure I'm
9th
in
is
town.
Okay.
I'm in town.
I guess I'd be just as happy to table this and get that information back here, in 2 weeks. I mean, you said Nick has a lot of information that we were asking for.
I believe I'm gonna say this, but if we can do it in 2 weeks, if we can get, because normally it would take another month to come back.
But I'm confused on what, we have talked about some things that Nick might have answers to, but we know that there will be rolling salt coming in and salt coming out based on the snow forecast, which we don't know. If we anticipate a usage, that will have to be a little bit of a, has to be a flexible. What's that?
There'll certainly be a guesstimate as to.
Well,
Yes.
it will, and
Mhm.
traffic permit, the salt shed traffic, MDOT really doesn't look at that because it's such minor traffic compared to the retail traffic out front. During
mean-
probably a snowstorm when there's less traffic out front.
Again, I don't think this is dealing, I don't think they're really asking about traffic as in a traffic count as much as what kind of volume will potentially be in that
Transient people.
one of, in the 19 average storms that happen in the middle of the night or whatever. I think it's more of a just specific to the salt shed.
Yeah.
Right. So it really isn't even traffic count, right? So the 9th, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, it's more kind of the, what is the anticipated usage of that's coming through the salt shed? Is it going to be, anybody who does the contract and therefore can just, like I said, just line up and at pretty much any hour that they need salt, which, like you say, it's going to be in the middle of the night sometimes. Sometimes it's going to be in the middle of the day.
So how appropriate is it to take a 5-minute break and maybe go find out those answers and get Nick Hooter on the phone so you don't have to have a whole nother meeting?
That would be
appropriate or not appropriate?
Huh?
I- I'm just
Is
asking,
this
I don't know.
board
your-
willing to take a pause?
I think that would be awesome because I don't think we should have to wait another 2 weeks. These aren't problems that we can't solve while the process goes forward.
Let me interject something here. If you're, whether it's one trip at 3 AM or 5 trips at 3 AM, the impact is not that big of a difference. We have in the past done conditional uses and put a limit on trips and then not been able to enforce it. Code officer's not here at 3 AM. You're going on neighbor complaint that isn't actual monitoring in any scientific manner. An engineer understands that. So it's very hard to limit something with that type of metric because it's incredibly hard to monitor. So hours of operation is the discussion we're having versus how many trips are happening in those hours.
Can I make a comment, please? What if you just made it that Willie C can use that from 4 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning, but anybody else that wants to come in and salt has to wait till 7?
Well, that was back to the gypsy comments.
Yeah. I mean, most guys are gonna get ready for it, but there's always those few. Or if they run out, I mean, that would stop.
Proposal, right? That's not what he's proposing. So
That's not what we're proposing. Yeah. I understand the comment, but in order to justify the salt shed, we need to be able to sell salt when salt needs to be sold during the storm.
I would be interested to see how many trucks it would take, normal size, I don't know, they're all different sizes, but to empty that thing. I mean, at some point, there's not gonna be any salt left because everybody's gonna be in line getting it.
Gary, that's what Dan's asking, and that's what Larry's asking.
But,
right?
you know, they have to be customers of Willie C's. They have to have an account with them. They can't just show up, correct?
Okay, can we take a,
Sure, yeah. We need the
you guys
information.
okay with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right, we're gonna take like a 5-minute pause. Is that?
Okay.
I don't think it's, if you need these, you're gonna be here for another 30 minutes discussing this. They'll get information, staff will review with Tom Lester, Kate, what works, and give their comments to you in 2 weeks, and I think hopefully get over the hurdle that you're having right now.
We'll come back in 2 weeks.
Okay. So I think you've got enough to know what the concerns are, and
Yeah, we'll answer the, I'll soon answer the questions and get you the information.
All right.
So we'll do that if we
You're
come back.
gonna talk to Nick too about what I said about the backup
Absolutely.
alarm and the strobe light.
Yep.
We'll prepare comments from the meeting, pass them off to Melissa. and Double back.
Just in terms of timing though, for the June 9th meeting, we'll need to have staff review this done by June 2nd, and with Memorial Day weekend, that might be a tight turnaround for Melissa and you folks.
And that was my question by saying, can we actually get back here in 2 weeks? Is
Yeah.
You could,
we can't get that in by June 2nd.
hang on.
no.
No,
So that's a good question. I would say, you folks meet June 9th. Comments from staff can come that week.
Oh, yeah.
June 9th.
Yeah.
This is simply a comment response. There's no amendments to the site. No, this is a pretty quick turnaround thing.
Right, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we all sort of work it together, we can support the 9th.
Yeah.
You guys agree?
Have myself.
And Melissa, and so you're gonna stick around another day?
He's coming back June 9th too.
I'm coming back, he's coming.
All right,
So,
so,
Melissa, if you could also get a better schematic or rendering of the salt shed.
I
That would
will.
be great.
and while you're at it, just what the doors, or not doors, or plastic, or whatever it is on the end, all the different discussions that we're having.
Yep.
All right, so I will entertain a motion to table.
And move that we table this application until June 9th.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All opposed? You're opposed?
Yep.
Here, you're opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, 3-2, still,
Who's the two opposed? This and.
And Victor.
Okay.
Victor.
all right,
Too many Bs.
all right, so we'll see you back in 2 weeks. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, so we'll adjourn to the workshop to discuss the recode, and Rod, you have the memo for that?
I move that we adjourn.
Second for that?
Jim.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fine. Okay, we're adjourned.
Come to the meeting.
Recode,
I don't know if the, memo in front of us.
you want it? I have it
do
right
I
here.
keep this on YouTube
wrote
still?
it.
No? Okay.